Creating a form works very much in the same way that we created our image galleries. If we hover over Content and go to Assets, we're taken to a list of all of our assets. We're creating a new form, so we'll click on that New Asset button at the top right. And we'll select Form from our options. We'll need to input asset info, so we'll need to give our form a unique name. We can add a description if we want to, and we can add tags. We can adjust the access settings, so the access group, which group has access to edit the asset, and available to determines which group has access to use the asset. Below that, we have a box that says Elements. This is where we'll start building our form. Over on the left, you'll see a box that says Form Elements. And these are the different form elements that we can use. We have single line text field, multi-line, radio buttons, checkboxes, drop down, multi-select, date time picker, and instructional text. We can click and drag those options over, but the easiest way to do that is just click that green cross. And when you do that, it'll add that field below the previous one. Some people like to create these by adding all the fields that they need to add and then going in and editing those, or you can just add them one at a time and edit them as you go. At the very top, you have a label. This is what's going to show up on the form itself. So if we're creating a form where someone needs to input an email address, in name, this is the unique reference value that'll be used in the spreadsheet when we pull up these submission values. And so what happens is when we click down in name, it'll take the name from the label and make it all lowercase and remove any spaces. But when we do that, you probably want these unique reference values to be as scannable and easy to read as possible. So we don't need that to say email address. We can just shorten that to email if we want to. Below that, we can add helper text. And if we keep scrolling down, we have default text, or we can put some text in there as a prompt. We can make this part of the form required if we want to, and then have some sort of validation, making sure that's a valid email address. We can also add a failure message. Using the compact view instead of the full view allows us to see more of the form. So if we need to move elements around or remove some, we can click and drag to move those around, and it becomes a little bit easier. Once we've built our form, we'll still have some other things to fill out. Down below that, we have our email messages. Once a form is submitted, we can have someone receive an email notification. So we'll need to put the to email address and the from. If we don't want to use our email address, we can put no reply at wichita.edu. We'll need to add a subject and body text. If we want that notification to include the submitted values from the form, we can check that box, Include All Submitted Values. If we want that notification to go to more than one user, we can use a semicolon to separate email addresses. Just make sure you don't include a space. If we want multiple types of notifications to go to different people, we can click Add to add a new email message. So maybe one user needs the included submitted values and maybe one doesn't, so we can create separate messages for both of those people. The last thing we'll need to do is fill out the form settings. We can add a success message if we want to. We can use text for this, or we can send people to a new page. Down below that, in the failure message, I might recommend adding some form of contact information. If something's wrong with your form and they get a failure message and they can't work it out, it's probably good to have an email or phone number there so they can get a hold of you and address the issue. Below that, the box is checked for Save Results in Database. You probably want to leave that checked. We have the ability to change the submission button text. By default, it says Submit, but you can change that to whatever you want. And when we're done, we'll click Create, which will take us to a preview of our form. You can scroll down there through that overview and make sure everything looks good. When you're finished, you'll publish. Once we've published our form and we've added it to our pages, if we ever want to go and look at the form submission data, we'll go to Form Submissions. And we can scroll through there, look at all of the user submission data. And we can export that as a CSV, which we can open in Excel as a spreadsheet. We can also delete that data. And that's how you create a form. Now we're ready to include that form on our page.